Okay, saying that we're live. If you guys can see and hear us, let us know. Let us know where you're watching from. I'm just obsessed with the shirt. I'm obsessed with the shirt. And you got the nerve to make it a cutoff. Like, I want it.
So I cut it. But I just realized this apostrophe doesn't go here. We need to change that. There's no apostrophe. We don't own it. Like, it's not possessive. Sorry.
Okay. I see you. I see you.
We'll
I
change
see
that.
you.
We'll change that. I just realized
Man.
that before somebody else calls me out. You know how Trav do.
I know. This is so real. I'm excited to have this conversation on for a number of reasons. I see people coming in. Cool. Let us know where you are, where you're listening from, where you're watching from. Make sure that you can hear and see us well. We're super excited. Anytime I can have chatted up with my girl, Libria, I'm totally down for it. One of the co-founders of Wandering Moms out here, where we was like, we both have wine tonight. Cheers. Talking about babies. So we got to get the wine out.
Right.
And I'm just interested in what's going on. The last time that we saw you and we spoke to you, it was really about kind of like the work-life balance. And Tanae, your partner, was also on the conversation too. And so we're extending this combo a bit because we see Sabrina's on here from Los Angeles. Hey, Sabrina. We're extending this conversation because NoMADNESS has got some tricks up their sleeve. So as we all know, we've been in quarantine. Most of us, I don't know, you've been in Georgia. Y'all been doing your own shit.
I have mostly been in quarantine.
To figure it out or not figure it out, depending on what the hell's going on in Atlanta. For the most part, we've been on quarantine and we have been really just doing like hardcore pivots. So many of you know, you've seen the pivot that we did for Audacity Digi. We're going into our third one on Saturday, October 24th. We were bringing quarantine content, which Libria and Tanae were a part of a couple months ago, talking about work-life balance / imbalance. And so much more that's been coming out in the fold. But the other thing that we've been working on the back end that people have been seeing us roll out over the last month really is the NoMADNESS Diversity and Travel Consensus Survey. So for those of you who don't know, there is only one report that's out right now with data on what the Black traveler is like. And it's the numbers that you see printed all over the place in the travel industry, boards of tourism running with it, how our expenditure 3 years ago was 53 billion and now it's 63 billion. And there's only one company that does that. And we were just like, okay, let's get our own data. You know, I'm at these tables while building my own with NoMADNESS and Audacity. Let's really dig into some of the data points that are a part of this and really look at what's happening. And not just from the African American, but from the Black traveler around the diaspora point of view, right? There's no data for this. And so we decided to jump into the world of data. Early on in the quarantine, we actually bridged with a data specialist. We are also partnering for our report that's going to be coming out at the end of the year in Q4 of this year with an academic institution, actually. And really, we want to tell the numbers, the story of numbers. And what we mean by that is we don't just want some like strict data spreadsheet that we're going to dump in on the industry. We want to actually interview travelers that fall into these trends that we find. We want to tell the story of NoMADNESS members. And I think this is kind of like our beginning of that. You know, like you are not just a survey taker, but also one of the people that can speak to some of the trends that we saw pop up early on. So what we did is we took a snapshot of the first 24 hours. We opened this up about a month ago. And within the first 24 hours, we had about 1,200 people fill out the survey, which is amazing. So our goal is to get to at least 5,000 by September 1st. So depending on where you're watching, there is a link to the survey that is either in the comments. I'm going to keep posting it throughout the day. If you are somebody that's watching, please post it. But also it's in the caption for this video. So you can always just look up and follow the link, share it. If you are got your tried and true travel squad, you know, that you think will definitely needs to have their voice as a part of this, definitely share the link, send it out. We have people that are a part of like Black employee groups at their companies who have been dropping it in there for us as well. So anywhere that you think that our demographic gravitates towards, this is the move. So one of the things that we saw as a trend with the first 24 hours of us doing this. And I'm curious to see if it's going to sustain through like the full duration of us like getting all this data. But we saw that 30% of our travelers who have children leave their kids at home when they travel. Now, Libria, I want you to tell the people who you are, what you do, your group, Wandering Moms. And then I'm going to bring up a blog that has gone it's been very popular, and it's made me create, and I'm not a mom yet, but it's made me create my own motto of I'm not going to be mothering on Mother's Day. Like, that's the rule, no mothering on Mother's Day. And I was like, there's no better person to talk about this stat than with you. So let's start off with who you are, what you do, let the people know about Wandering Moms.
Okay, cool. So, hey guys, my name is Libria Jones. And before I even hit Wandering Moms, first and foremost, I am a NoMADNESS veteran. I've been around in these NoMADNESS streets for a minute. I am also the Atlanta Metro ambassador too. So yes, there's that. I started Wandering Moms, which is similar to NoMADNESS, just niched out for mothers who want to travel with their kids, who, you know, literally want to give their kids the world. Wandering Moms has been around for what, 3-4 years, maybe? Yeah. I started with another NoMADNESS member named Tanae Bernard because she was coming into town for a NoMADNESS barbecue. Yeah, and wanted to get together and do a brunch. So, and I also have a personal brand as well called Wonder Woman Inc., which is a travel blog as well as lifestyle. And I teach people how to work remotely as well. I've been working remotely for over 10 years now. So
yeah, long time.
It feels like it for the most part. Oh, and I'm mom a teen.
Yes,
so
y'all
check on me from time to time because mom's a teen. We're not.
I saw your recap about your RV tour this past weekend. So the RV tour, I guess the dates overlapped with like the first day of school for your teenager. Yeah. It was interesting.
Yeah, she was. And it had nothing to do with school, I don't think. She just, you know.
Teening.
Ooh, yeah, teening. Teenagers are toddlers with more words.
Ooh,
they're erratic. They cannot control their emotions. That's another conversation though, Evie. We got to do that another time.
Got it. So I just love the fact you had a blog post, and I saw it recently. I don't know when exactly you wrote it. You can speak more to that, but I saw it recently in Tribe and in some of these other arenas, definitely Wandering Moms, where you caught shit for, what was it? You were traveling and was it leaving Zion?
Oh yeah. So I've been rolling without the kids since she was like, I don't know, 18 months old. Yeah. So it was actually my first trip out of the country, my first international trip ever. I came back and one of my coworkers, this older gentleman, who often gave me advice about stuff, unsolicited, of course. Pulled me aside and told me that it was incredibly selfish of me to travel without my daughter. And as a new mom, I needed to learn that my life is not my own. I have to sacrifice for her. And I was just like,
where did this come from?
Who the hell are you talking to, sir? But yeah, that's what the blog post was about. And thankfully, that's the first and only time anyone has said that to my face.
Right.
I know people have said it behind my back to my friends, like, who's raising her daughter because she travels so much. Someone said that to my best friend one day.
Wow.
Yeah, and anybody that knows me and has been around me and Zion has no question about our relationship and the time that we spend together. But no, thankfully that was the only time I ever caught heat about it. But running Wandering Moms and talking to moms on a regular basis, I wrote it because it happens to moms all of the time, right? And I rarely ever hear dads saying that happens to them. And quite honestly, Evie, had I gone on a trip without my daughter, with my husband, don't have a husband, guys. If you know somebody, let me know. But anyway, like, gone on a trip with
Listen, if you got two.
Send two. If I had gone on a trip with my husband and been like, oh, me and my husband went on a mini honeymoon or something like that, right? Or we went on a reconnection trip, nobody would have said anything.
Right.
They wouldn't have said anything at all. It's just, for some reason, it's when moms do things that benefit only them is when people have something to say. That's the only time.
Right. So for the 30%, let's say it's moms, dads, we don't know the exact variation and breakdown. 30% leave their kids at home when they travel. What do you think is one of the benefits of packing up, going on your own, or going as a couple rather than bringing the kids with you? What are some of the benefits of that?
You just want what?
You just want
you just want what? So, I mean, the major thing is, you know, whether it's just you or whether it's you and your boo traveling without your kids, at the end of the day, like it gives you the opportunity to get back to who you are as a person. I was Libria long before my daughter came along, right? And I will always be her. When my daughter moves out, grows up, whatever, I will always be her. And so it's just so very important for moms to take a break, for people, for parents to take a break from their kids. My daughter and I actually did a YouTube video talking about that blog post from her
Right.
perspective.
Right.
And even she said, she was like, people need breaks from each other. She was like, your kids need a break from you too. So, I mean, mainly it's just about you going to reconnect, refresh, get back to who you are as a person, get back to you and your friends, your friendships, or get back to your relationship without
Yeah.
without your kids around, right? And funny enough, in Wandering Moms, a lot of times they say when you take your kids, it's not a vacation, it's just parenting somewhere else.
That's a really
Just
interesting perspective, but I feel like so many parents would probably, if you are a parent and you're watching right now, if you agree with any of these insights, definitely let us know. Cause I think that that's real. It's kind of like, it's funny because Brittany, who used to work with us, who's also still a No Madness member, and I spoke to recently, it's like the escapism, right? Part of
yeah,
travel. And she has this saying that I love every time she says it. She's like, look, no matter where you go, there you are.
there you are. Uh-huh.
You know, and so I could see that kind of being like the same type of situation, but just like parenting, like they said, in a different locale.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there is a benefit to traveling with my daughter. Wrote a blog post about that too, wrote a blog post about why I hate traveling with her, to be honest with you. I mean, there's
Right.
benefit to traveling with her. You know, we get to step outside of our, you know, normal relationship as mother and daughter and get to know each other as people. But, you know, traveling without my daughter and going places without her just um keeps it top of mind that, you know, my life is still mine
Right.
and it is still important for me to be myself. And then on top of that, you know, when you get that break, you are you are investing time into yourself. And when I come home, I'm refreshed and I'm honestly a better mom. Like I'm
Yeah.
more fun to be around, easier to deal with. I'm not getting aggravated about things so quickly. And you know, we always say, you know, you get on a plane and they tell you to apply your own mask first. That's how I
Right.
see these trips, right? That's you taking the time out to, you know, reapply your oxygen mask and refresh and then come back to your kids a better mother. Happy women make great moms, guys. Happy men make great dads. Like that's just,
Yeah.
there's no getting around that.
Right. Absolutely. It's interesting too. You have a unique perspective because you've not only traveled with your daughter, you've also lived abroad with her.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what are there any differences and like specific nuances that you found with doing the more long-term travel with her versus like just the one-off trips, things of that nature?
Oh, absolutely different. Like very, very different. Different in expectations, different in the things that we do. You know, when we're going just on a trip, we can just be focused on what we want to do together.
Right.
But that long term travel situation was really like, how do we live here? How do I help you
Yeah.
make friends here? How do I help you acclimate to this community? How do I find a school for you to go to, a soccer team for you to play on? We're about to have some strangers over having sleepovers. You know, typically when you have a
Right.
sleepover, these are kids that you've been going to school with for years. And so she had a sleepover with this one girl we met in Thailand. We knew them for like 2 weeks. Boom,
Crazy.
sleepover. But I mean, it's just you're trying to accelerate that process of creating a village that you would normally do over, you know, months and years at home. So definitely very, very different
Right.
perspectives if you're doing long-term travel versus short trips.
Right, right. Also, the schooling situation there, building friends and having that sense of community for her abroad. How has this informed kind of like what you guys are doing right now, given COVID?
Yeah. So in this case, you know, we're in the neighborhood that she grew up in, right? So it's a little bit easier. She already has her friends. She already has her community.
Hmm.
And so, and she's at an age where she can pretty much own her communication and how her communication cadence with them, right? So she's going to FaceTime and text her friends. I think if my kids were younger, I think a lot of parents with younger kids right now are doing things like creating, when school started, creating pods where you've got your community of like 3 or 4 families that you trust have been quarantining and, you know, you
Right.
guys have the same level of, I don't know, concern about COVID, right? And so
Yeah.
they're putting their kids in school together. homeschool together, virtual school
Right.
together. They like all meet up. So I think people are doing things like that, building smaller communities rather than trying to go to the park and have play dates. It's let me build this little community that I can contain.
Right, right. I love it. All right. So if we have 30% of people that leave their kids at home, we have the other side of this as 70% who actually travel with their children. You have done both. You've seen the benefits of both. What do you think your daughter has taken away the most from actually being on the road with you and traveling?
And it's funny that you say that real quick. When you said 30% of people leave their kids at home, I was like, I got to work on this other 70.
Listen, bring them over. Bring them over. Plead your case. It's fine.
Work to do. We need to talk, people. So for my daughter, what she's learned about traveling. You asked what has she learned about traveling?
Yeah. So on the other side, for people that bring their kids, or somebody, say you're talking to somebody who's considering it, right? What is the benefit to actually do that?
Yeah. So that and this right here is the major mission of. We do have a whole lot of momcations. We have a lot of trips where kids aren't allowed. I think we do 3 or 4 trips a year where children are not allowed to go on. But the other half of our trips are family trips, because at the end of the day, what we want is for people to raise global citizens, right? And expand their belief of what's possible for themselves. It's not just about it is about expanding your knowledge, but it's not just about that, right? So expanding your exposure, your knowledge about the world, your ability to see things differently, your ability to see how people live differently. That's all great. Those are wonderful, wonderful benefits to traveling as well. But I mean, I think the icing on the cake is that it expands their possibilities, right? When I was growing up, I didn't even see myself as a person that traveled. I couldn't even picture myself getting on planes going out of the country. And now we've got kids talking about possibly going to college out of the country or going to high school out of the country, right? So just the idea of what's available to you tends to expand through travel. Additionally, what we learn in school is multiplied, right? Like, it's one thing to read the Diary of Anne Frank. It's a whole nother thing to be able to walk through that house in Amsterdam, okay?
Yep.
And all of us had to read the Diary of Anne Frank, right? And all of us had to sit through our teachers' boring lectures on it.
Yep.
And all of us had to watch that black and white.
I hated history, and it blows people's mind. Like, social studies and history were my least favorite classes in school. And I did good because I knew how to study for the test and memorize dates, but I'm much more of a tangible, cerebral, critical thinking type of person. I like to connect to my work. And it wasn't until I started traveling. I remember saying earlier, like when I first started NoMADNESS, I was like, damn, I wish I could kind of take some of these social studies and history classes I took in high school again now as an adult, because I have a brand new appreciation for it. And now these things are tangible to me. I can think of a map and actually know where things are, not just because I memorized it for a test, but because it's like, I want to go there.
Right. And it means something completely different when you get to experience. You get to stand in history, right? So my daughter is like you. She didn't really like history. History is not her favorite class at all. And I've just never seen her get so connected and so engrossed in a story or, a lesson in history as she was in the Diary of Anne Frank. So I made her read the book because I knew we were going to Amsterdam. So I took her to Amsterdam. We went to the house. She's walking around the house telling me where everything is. Because, there's no furniture in there anymore, right? Yeah. The house is still set up the way it was, like wallpaper and all that, but there's no furniture in the house anymore. She's like, oh, her bed was right here. There was a curtain right here splitting her and her brother's space. And I'm like, I read the book too, so I know. But she's like, but I've just never seen my daughter so engrossed in a history lesson before, right? And it took us forever to walk through that museum, and I had been already. But I've just never seen her that interested. And then when we left, she starts looking up movies and extending it even further. Like, let me learn more about this. I've never seen her do that on her own. Yeah. And so the way that you multiply learning is it's incredible. I mean, you got to take the kids just for that reason alone, right? And the other piece is just the memories, the experience, I think that when I think about my daughter, when she's 25, when she's 30, and I think about what I want her to get from this is that, she belongs everywhere. She belongs everywhere she is. And when I think about her at 25 and 30, that's what I want her to feel as a person. And I think that that's what I'm hoping to do through travel, right? You belong everywhere. Everywhere we go, you belong. And I just want her to own her space wherever she is, you know?
Right. Absolutely. I love that. It's interesting because me in my journey wanting to become a mother, one of the things I did, I think I put this up in Tribe about a year ago. It was like last summer. I asked everybody in NoMADNESS, I was like, listen, do any of you have any international parenting books that you recommend? Mm-hmm. And I'm a bibliophile. Like I collect books and they're everywhere in my house. And so now there's an entire like international parenting section with all of these things from around the world. The first one I read was Bringing Up Bebe. It was a New York journalist.
I was going to say that book.
Oh my God, the book is amazing. And being a New Yorker, I'm like, this chick, like, I get it. I know exactly what she's talking about, even her vernacular, like everything that she's using. And to see it, and I realized that the type of parenting that I want to do when I have a kid is very akin to a lot of the things that they do in Paris. I love it. I was like, this is the real, like for me. And so I have another one, speaking of Amsterdam, there's like this study that like Dutch children are like the happiest children in the world. And so there's a book that I have that's based on that. And I've been really interested in deep diving into like what parenting looks like around the world. I think as a mother and as you're traveling, whether it's with your daughter or not, have you picked up on certain cultural differences? Have you even integrated some of the things that you've seen or researched into how you parent? But like, what have you picked up around the world?
It's a good question. Dang, I gotta think about that.
It's so interesting because I pick up, like, I know for me, everything, like still to this day, I lived in Japan for a year. So I'm a 3-time expat. I've lived in Thailand, Japan, and Paris. When I lived in Japan, that being where I stayed the longest for a year, there were certain things that I brought home with me, right? Chopsticks, trying to eat as balanced a meal as possible. I dropped so much weight when I was in Japan, but also I'm not one of these people that does, first off, I'm not like, I don't subscribe to a specific religion, but also like these long prayers before food are just like never my thing. Like I'm hungry. And so literally before, especially working in the school districts, before you eat a meal, literally all they say is itadakimasu. And it just means I receive. That's it. Okay. That's the prayer. And it's like, it's that moment. It's a quick moment of silence, itadakimasu. And I tell you to this day, before I eat something, I don't make a scene out of it. It's not a big thing, but in my head, I still say like itadakimasu. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain things that you just like, you know, it's like, it's an acknowledgement, you know, without it being this like drawn out situation. But I think that there's just certain things that we pick up, especially those of us who have lived abroad. We both have lived abroad. So we've been really immersed in cultures, as has your child. So with that, do you think that you kind of just observed anything that even turned you off? Because I was an English teacher. First time I saw a Japanese kid get slapped from a teacher, I was like, whoa. And it was like, it took everything in me not to jump in to the situation. And they had to tell me, in this culture, the teachers are an extension of the parent. Like their parent-teacher conferences, they actually go to the home of a lot of their students to see what the home life is like, to make sure, to like make sure stuff is good, but to also breed that relationship between the parent and the teacher. I saw a kid get slapped across the face in one of my classes and walked out. And I'm telling you, it took everything in me. I was like, I was about to be like, I quit everything. And now I got to fight you. And I quit everything. Like,
wow. I mean, that's a throwback to when we used to get paddled in school, you know?
Yeah. I had to be checked culturally. I couldn't do what my natural reaction and my empathetic reaction was. And so those are the types of examples of situations that I've been in where I'm like, holy shit. So if there's anything as a parent that you noticed or that you've read or anything, is there anything that you think that you've kind of like picked up or noticed?
Yeah, I think it was more of, I was in more of a position to be open to how I choose to parent, right?
Right.
I think here in the States, there's so many expectations, especially on moms, right? There's so much pressure for exactly how you parent, what you do, how you do it. Everybody got a judgment, everybody got advice, everybody got concerns, everybody got an opinion about it. And being abroad, it just lifted all of that and made it easier for me to just do whatever felt comfortable. So for example, you know, a lot of kids abroad, here in the States, we used to be very, very open to our kids being more self-sufficient and responsible, right? Like you grew up in, New York. You probably rode transportation when you got out of school, right?
Yeah.
Public transportation after you got out of school. I rode the city bus when I got out of school. I would ride to the mall or my granny's house. And now we don't let kids do that at all. We don't allow that. A lot of people don't even want their kids riding the school bus, But while we were abroad, Zion was able to, take the tram on her own. She was able to take the bus on her own. She was even able to take Ubers on her own. And here in the States, for whatever reason, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm not saying anybody is right or wrong here. That's not something that we're that comfortable with. And so I just felt a lot more comfortable giving her the space to be more self-sufficient and self-reliant. And I didn't feel pressured to think twice about it. Right.
I can't help but think that there's a safety element to that.
Yeah.
Being Black in the United States. I can't help but think that there's a safety element. There's a racial element. Like there's just certain intrinsic things underneath that. And I know I'm not a parent, but like, I can't help but think that because I've also, even just as an adult, I've felt freer in so many other countries before America on my list.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a hella true statement. I mean, I felt I was on some podcast and they asked about safety and I was like, honey, I felt safer walking the streets of Haiti at night than I felt driving through rural Georgia a couple weekends ago in the middle of the day. So
right.
There's that. Right. But yeah, I think that definitely plays a part in it. I think it plays a part in it. It also is because, that's what kids there do. Kids ride the tram. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Kids walk around and, walk down to the night markets in Thailand. No big deal. They can do that. And so I think that it just put me in a position where I felt a little bit more comfortable giving her more space to be self-sufficient. I mean, because ultimately that's the goal, right? We want to raise self-sufficient human beings. And somehow we're doing the opposite of that in the United States by being helicopter parents and doing everything for our kids. So I'd say that that's the thing that I picked up, just being a little bit stepping back a little bit and giving her space to learn to be an adult.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want one day, right?
Appreciate it too. Like, yes, please leave me alone. Like, give me 6 feet.
Back up, lady. You do not have to ride the bus with me every single day, lady. Chill out.
Right. I love that. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Thank you so much for having this conversation. Again, for anybody that is watching, this is an extension of conversations that we're going to be having after finding some stats that are already starting to develop within the first 24 hours of us releasing our diversity in travel consensus survey. We are on our road to getting 5,000 people to fill out the survey by September 1st. We're a few thousand in at this point. So if you have not taken the survey and you are a traveler from around the diaspora, please take the survey, send it to your tried and true travel crew. If you have any organizations that you're a part of, travel groups that you're a part of that really speak to travelers of color, definitely feel free to drop it in there. You're going to be seeing more promotion of this over the next 2 weeks as we approach September. Libria, where can everybody find it? What's the latest with Wandering Moms? What do you want the folks to know about?
I'll tell you something I want to know about. I want to know the other 70%. If you answered the survey, if you took the survey and you said you do not travel without your kids, I want to know why. So please drop that in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. I'll hang out in NoMADNESS. Let's talk about it. Wandering Moms does have 3 or 4 trips a year that no kids are allowed. 3 of them are momcations, moms only. Mother's Day is one of them because we do not mom on Mother's Day. And then one of the trips where no kids are, it's a couples trip. That one's sold out, but we will do it every year. And then for the 70% that like to travel with their kids, we do have trips next year with the children. We're going to Barbados. We're going to Utah. We're going to Colombia. I love Colombia. Maybe we'll start Colombia. But yeah, check us out. WanderingMoms.com is our website. We are on Instagram as wandering_moms. And then you can find me, Wander Woman Inc. Everywhere, pretty much. Instagram. I just hang out on Instagram.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for your time and your insights here. And we'll be actually deep diving into this conversation a little bit more at Audacity Digi 3. on Saturday.
Yeah,
October 24th.
I'm so excited about
We're
that.
bringing you guys back. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of types of relationships during that Audacity Digi. So I'm super excited about that. But thank you again for your time tonight.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Bye.